We are live. Welcome to our Success Mastermind. Hopefully, I don't need to stop and get a drink. John Lavenia here with you on this beautiful Thursday, the 23rd of June. And I was doing fine until I clicked the go button. See how that works, Lynn? My goodness, doing fine till it actually till it counts. Hey, Catherine, good to see you as well. I've got something really cool that we're going to be talking about here today. A bit of a review for some of you, those of you who have been reviewing books with us, and it's one that I go back to again and again. Maybe you can guess which one it is, but I'm glad to be here with everybody. Yesterday we had Glenn out here talking about "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," which was an interesting metaphor for understanding that you're either winning or you're learning, right? We're not learning anything by asserting our rightness or having never had a challenge, right? So that builds character. So thank you, Glenn, for that. And then of course on Tuesday we had Stuart out here talking about some like heavy duty stuff. That's how Stuart likes to roll, right? Hopefully you guys got a kick out of that, and just from his more cerebral approach, I could start to put things together, see how things fit together, because that's something I'm very interested in is, how does this stuff actually work, or why does it not work, right? So that's awesome that Stuart does that. Today I want to talk with you about getting into the flow, getting into the stream of prosperity. I'm specifically calling it a stream because I'm going to be referring to one of my favorite books, which talks about a stream. And before I do that, I just want to acknowledge everyone here who's a part of these conversations, whether you tune in live or you catch the recordings. I know we've had summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere. A lot of people are out at the beach, out at the lake, whatever, but we know that you attend nonetheless. And if you're just seeing this on YouTube, then we'd love to have you also join the conversation. You can go to jlsuccessmastermind.com, grab yourself a trial membership. Guaranteed you'll love it. And if you don't, you can leave. So there's that. I want to pull up a book here real quick. In fact, it's in the chapter on the power of the mastermind from none other than our good friend Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, 1937. So this is the end of the chapter on the power of the mastermind, the ninth step to riches. When Napoleon Hill talked about the power of the mastermind, he said in multiple places in the book that great power can be accumulated by no other principle. So there's something to this idea of not doing it alone. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through the material that we're going to go through here. I've got a couple of paragraphs highlighted. And I want you to keep in mind the advantages that you have or can have that you can arrange for yourself. All right, with that in mind. So coming to the end of this chapter, he says, when money comes in quantities known as the big money, it flows to the one who accumulates it as easily as water flows downhill. There exists a great unseen stream of power, which may be compared to a river, except that one side flows in one direction, carrying all who get into that side of the stream onward and upward to wealth, and the other side flows in the opposite direction, carrying all who are unfortunate enough to get into it and not able to extricate themselves from it, downward to misery and poverty. Okay, so right there, if we just pause right there, there's a stream. It flows just like water. It will accomplish its mission, which in this case, in the case of water, metaphorically speaking, right, is to go downhill. Okay, so it's that reliable, right? We're not going to defy law, gravity in this case, right? Water goes downhill, case closed. Okay, and when one gets into it, it's as easy as that. It's they're in that stream, and as a matter of fact, a matter of course, a matter of law, they're going to prosper. In contrast, here's the unfortunate person who gets into the negative stream and is not able to extricate themselves from it, downward to misery and poverty. Keep in mind, this is the chapter on mastermind. All right. So remember, everything we're talking about here, you don't necessarily have to do alone. Okay. Moving on. It says here, if you are in the side of the stream of power, which leads to poverty, this may serve as an oar by which you may propel yourself over onto the other side of the stream. He's talking about these teachings. Okay. Everything you're getting from this book and your discussions of it and however you apply it. But it could serve you only through application and use. Merely reading and passing judgment on it, either one way or another, will in no way benefit you. Now, how many times, and this is something I've observed having been in the personal development and coaching space and all this for some decades now. How many times have I witnessed someone who had the same data, they had the book in their hands, so to speak, they could read it, they could apply it. So that's a measure of one's integrity, right? To their own intention, their own desire to, be, do, and have more. And yet, what is the statistic? The average self-help book is read 11 pages before it's shelved to collect dust. 11 pages is the average that I heard. I don't know what statisticians came up with that stat, but wow, 11 pages. Most books are 200 pages plus. Okay, so there's definitely, there's something that's not happening there. We can't even get to application if we didn't even take in the data, right? And granted that's a modern statistic, right? Back when people had higher IQs, the educational system wasn't strictly about dumbing people down, and we had books worth reading, then I'm sure that stat would have been higher. Okay. And I don't, if that sounded critical, it's because it was. There's a lot of stuff on the bestseller list, which is friggin' crap, in my humble opinion. But moving on, some people undergo the experience of alternating between the positive and negative sides of the stream. And he goes on, being on the positive at this time and that time. The book that we're currently reading in our book study group is You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. And he talks about how people can plant a seed and then uproot it, metaphorically speaking, right? So we can check our own progress and demolish that progress by then entertaining doubtful, negative, pessimistic thinking. Okay, so what we want to do is get ourselves securely onto that stream of power, that the side that is going to bear fruit in the way that we want it to. Understand that the stream of power, which leads to poverty, right? So it's also power. It's just on a reverse vector, right? So this water's flowing here. That's power, right? You could power like a water mill and create electricity, right? Like the old way they used to do it, right? And this stream going this way is also power. But what if we had the water mill hooked up in reverse, right? So it's like sucking power instead of making power. You get it? So we're talking about the same law. We're just applying it incorrectly. And remember, the title of this chapter is The Power of the Mastermind. Again, that means you're not alone. So have you seen yourself in a stream of power leading in the wrong direction? And have you done it alone? Oh, misery loves company, right? And the purpose of the herd is to keep you in the herd. So be careful who you're masterminding with. And you may not call it that, right? I'm not terribly attached to titles or whatever, but he also said in the chapter, choose well, right? Because the power works, the law works, whether you know it or like it or not. You can't break the law. You can only break yourself against the law. So again, you're not alone on this. Finally, he says, poverty and riches often change places. The crash, he was talking about 1929. All right, so it was written in 1936, published in 37. The crash taught the world this truth, although the world will not long remember the lesson. Poverty may, and generally does, voluntarily take the place of riches. When riches take the place of poverty, the change is usually brought about through well-conceived and carefully executed plans. Poverty needs no plan. It needs no one to aid it because it is bold and ruthless. Riches are shy and timid. They have to be attracted. Like the fair maiden. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. So let me go ahead and come back on screen here with you guys. Bold and ruthless. I was recently out in my yard preparing some of the hedges, trimming the hedges and preparing to have an old fence taken out and all new fencing put in, and we're doing like upgrades and all this kind of stuff. And there is a vine. It's almost like a sort of an ivy. It's basically a weed, but it's called Virginia creeper. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but this stuff is bold and ruthless. It will take root into anything. I found it rooting into a piece of bark, like just a piece of tree bark, and it grabbed that and it was rooting into that. And it's climbing up the hedges and the trees, and this stuff is bold and ruthless, unremitting, implacable. And you can't negotiate with it. You must kill it at the root, right? Get it all out and then pull it all out of the other things that it climbed into. And I was thinking of that weed, okay, as again, metaphorically, as how negative thinking, poverty, the stream, going on the wrong vector, right, getting into that stream, how effortless it is. Now, I like, beautiful palm trees and the hedges and the flowers, right? So we're cultivating that stuff, and it's work to do that, right? You got to have the right amount of fertilizer and the water and the sun and right? But the weeds, you don't got to do anything for that. This seems kind of unfair to me. Does anybody else, does that smack of unfair to you? Why don't the flowers and the palm trees and everything just grow like weeds? I want the weeds struggle. Oh, you didn't take care of the weeds. They died. Oh man, it sucks. Why is it that way? See, these are questions that I ask myself. And of course, the old saying, well, if success was easy, it would be mediocrity. Everybody would do it, right? And sure, there are people, I've got neighbors who, they've got a beautiful array of, of weeds, and like that's their landscape. They're less interested in aesthetics, I suppose. So why is it that it's more effort, more deliberate, conscious effort to grow what you want instead of weeds? Why is that? Well, I don't have an answer for you on the why. So if you're hoping for an answer on that, tune in next time. Maybe I'll cognite something. But I'd rather just tell you I don't know than tell you, But I do have an idea. And it correlates to the same thing that we're talking about. The title of this chapter is The Power of the Mastermind. Are more people, do you think, in terms of group agreement, group consciousness, are more people growing weeds or hibiscus? Path of least resistance, right? And lots of agreement on that, right? You think about what we have here, all right? So just with our group, we've got a few people on here with us live, and whoever's watching the recordings or watching the YouTube. So you've got a few people who are deliberately looking to better themselves in terms of, mindset and production and business and health, relationships, to whatever end, okay? Is that the majority of people? No, it's a minority of people. I was just looking at some statistics today on YouTube channel viewership and exposure in different categories of types of channels. Okay. And so, cause I'm interested in starting to build something, right? So everything, I've got thousands of videos on here. It might get 5, 10 views, whatever. So it's not been something that I'm like, yeah, let's promote via YouTube, but I'm turning my attention toward that now on a couple of channels. And I was watching this video from a political commentator, and he was talking about how he's the invisible man. And he's, what does that mean, right? So he was showing the statistics, like how many views he gets, and he's been doing this for 10 years, whatever, probably longer. And very intelligent, great guy, very well spoken, kind of entertaining as well. And he's like, here is the spec that I am on YouTube. And then he said, I went and I looked at all of the other people who I admire, right? Great channels, better than me, let's say. They're freaking awesome. And we put them all together. And he said, it just moved up from invisible as just me to insignificant. Insignificant. You see the move from invisible to insignificant. Now let's look at, and he used the example of gaming, video games. And he made a pie chart out of it. And there was this little slice of pie, which was him and all channels, even better than his and more popular and everything else. There's the little sliver. And then there's the rest of the pie chart. Here's the gaming viewership. People that want to watch, video gameplay and tips and tricks and whatever on that sort of thing. And it was enormous. His point was that we can't lecture our way out of a problem that we entertained ourselves into. That's interesting. But the statistic of it, back to the point that I'm making, is that we have a minority of people who are deliberately putting themselves on that stream of prosperity. The late Jim Rohn said most people choose entertainment over education. Something else he said, which I thought was fun, is that, poor people have big TVs, rich people have big libraries. Actually, rich people have both. I can tell you that. But I don't spend as much time on the TV as I do in the library. So we have a group agreement over here, and then we've got, a few people over here. Earl Nightingale said, if a bunch of people are turning left and a couple of people are turning right, follow the people that are turning right, you'll probably never make another mistake again. Right? So groupthink can be a blessing or a curse. Getting into the stream of power can be a blessing or a curse. Who you go into agreement with, knowingly or unknowingly, can be a blessing or a curse. Hence, what Hill said about choose well. Now, there's this idea that in a few years, your income will be the average of your 5 closest friends. Okay, and we can statistically prove that out or disprove it, right? But it holds water, right? Sounds good, right? We become like the people that we surround ourselves with. So remember back where he said that unfortunate person who gets into the negative stream and cannot extricate themselves out of it. Okay. If we've experienced in whatever area of life, okay, prosperity can be, and riches can be obviously financial, health and, other areas of life. Okay. But if we find ourselves in that negative stream, what could we do? What could we do to extricate ourselves from it? We could put ourselves deliberately into an environment which is going in the other direction. Almost sounds too simple, right? But again, this requires effort, right? When I go to the coffee shop and, bitch and gripe and complain with the other people who like to bitch and gripe and complain, right? If that's my social life, then to extricate myself from that, well, that's at least something we can look at, and we could say, all right, this time that I'm spending here, immersing myself in this environment, I am now going to deliberately immerse myself somewhere else. Since we're reading Proctor's book in our book study group on Monday nights, let me tell you something that he said. This was in a seminar where he used to hang around at this bar, right, where you drink and you get drunk, right? And so his life was miserable and he wasn't going anywhere in life and whatever. And one day he kind of woke up, looked around, and he said, "They're all drunks in here." And he looked at himself and he said, "Well, I must be drunk too." And he left. He left the bar and he never went back. And then he made a joke. He's like, "Well, they probably don't even know I'm gone." right? So of what value is agreement if it's on the wrong vector, if it's not bringing you where you want to go? And can you deliberately extricate yourself and not do it alone by putting you in an environment in which the success, the prosperity, the production, the esteem, right? The results that you seek is not just a theory, but a reality. Then by that same law, you can be swept on to more resourceful thinking, decision-making, income, choices. I mean, if you're going to go into agreement with something, well, why don't we pick that thing? Why don't we just pick it then, right? So I've had to, in my studies and in my evolution, I've had to at times take a look at who am I partnered with in this business venture, or what is it that I'm expecting of this person? In other words, to take a step back and to just observe and assess: is this the impression of increase? Is this a mutually beneficial? Is this about advancement? Is this or are we going on the wrong vector here? Now, I've got a problem. This is for me personally. I've got a problem of loyalty to a fault. Or I should say, I have had that problem, right? So I have observed that in my life. I've become a bit more, objective and detached, and let me say, less attached in more recent years. But I have had the situation where, because of some stated or assumed, allegiance, go down with the ship. And so this is a tough one for a lot of people, right? Because we all need allies. Okay, we're not in this alone. So it could be tough if, let's say, you've got a friend or family member who's going on the reverse vector from you, to have to be deliberate about what that relationship is if it continues, and perhaps to not go as often, not stay as long. And in some cases, to, even when you're in that environment with what you've assessed as not so resourceful or negative influence kind of a thing, to reinterpret, in other words, to observe, but not agree with per se, okay, but to be objective about and not attached to, and not let stuff stick to you. That's something that, that requires a good amount of thought and effort, right? Especially if you've had the tendency to attach yourself. Here's my point with all of this. If we intend to get into this stream of prosperity, we're not going to do it while remaining necessarily comfortable. I'm not comfortable when I'm pulling Virginia creeper out of my hedges. And the Virginia creeper doesn't like getting pulled out of the hedges either. Okay, it just wants to do the weed thing, right, and take over the whole damn property. So there's going to have to be some deliberate attention, effort, and decisiveness that's put on that. But we're not going to do it if we ourselves don't feel like we're worthy of it, which is another whole conversation, right? We can get into self-image psychology and the reality that you will never outperform your self-image. You may have little jumps and then little dips, okay, but it's just like that autopilot or that thermometer, right? That's who I believe I am. That's what I'm going to produce. I just had this situation with another potential business partnership that I was actually looking to help this person out and give them a leg up on some stuff. And we created a very nice program for them. This was a I won't get into all the details of it, but basically it was a red friggin' carpet. Here's what you can do, and this is going to help you. And this person, which I saw pretty early on, and I didn't bring this person to the table. Okay, it was a partnership actually, but I didn't bring this partnership to the table. this was referred to me. And I noticed pretty early on that they were, we'll call it of a poverty consciousness. So here I am attempting to assist someone whose innermost belief about themselves is, I'm not worthy, or I play small. We could use that as sort of the title. I play small would be, imagine that, right? And so here I am showing them how to play a bigger game. And no matter what we did, they couldn't make a decision. They couldn't execute. It looks good. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Right? Oh, I'm not sure about that. And I'm not sure about that. And then 10 million questions. And then, well, we got to, talk about the other thing. And anything except engage. Anything except engage. Why? Why? We're in different planets. We're on different streams, man. We're having two different conversations here. My reality is not their reality. And I'm not saying, look at how right I am. I'm just observing the obvious, right? Is that this is working, what they're doing isn't, and they're not willing to extricate themselves, right? Their best thinking is what they're attached to. Their stats are terrible, okay, but what are you going to do? Remember what Wallace Waddle said about helping the poor? He said, you're never going to help the poor by addressing poverty. Go get rich, right? And inspire others who are willing to pull themselves up. So that's how you handle that, right? Go make a spectacle of yourself. I would tell anyone here that one of the best things you could do is, and I'm going to use money as the scorecard, okay? But one of the best things you can do is go make as much money as you can as fast as you can. Go do that. Go demonstrate by your own example that prosperity is real through the use of deliberate thought, again, to refer to Napoleon Hill, in response to definite demands and through the application of definite principles. That's what Hill said. He said, when riches come, they don't come by chance or luck or hard work and honesty alone. No. That's not the answer. The answer is definite demands backed by the application of definite principles. That's how riches come. So you can go and you can demonstrate that. And I think it's your moral obligation to do so. And then watch what happens to the people who used to be in agreement with you about we can't and, limitations and lack and blah, 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 right? Suddenly they're more distant because you're in a different planet. What do you guys think about this? So we're talking about getting into the stream of prosperity in which you are swept on. It's a beautiful image too, right? In which you are swept on with that momentum. I love that momentum, right? And by law. And now it's not an arduous thing. Sure, you had to do the work to extricate yourself. And many of you have, right? I mean, if you're in this conversation, you're obviously deliberately engaged in some effort towards, right thinking and right action. It was spectacular. You already got my respect. So how does that, how has that affected you, or in what areas of your life would you like to continue to raise the game, have a bigger effect, get more solidly into that stream of prosperity where it's no longer, it's a lot easier, by the way, I'll just leave you with this. It's a lot easier to prevent the weeds. Keep in mind, we just bought this property, so don't blame me for the Virginia creeper, okay? But a preventative, an ounce of prevention, right? Okay, rather than get in there with the gloves and the machinery and the cutting devices, and pulling the roots up, right? So that's work. Same with getting fit, right? Lynn, you know this, right? So it's easier to stay fit than it is to get fit. Okay, it's easier to be in the flow than to get into the flow. Is it worth it? Oh, hell yeah. Totally worth it. Comfortable? No, not comfortable. Do it anyway? Absolutely. Do it anyway. Let's get Lynn out here. Lynn, since I already said your name and now I see your hand, let's get my friend Lynn to talk. Lynn from beautiful, cold Australia.
Okay. Where are we? All right. Couple of things. I've had a bit of a it's only a little one, but a move on, a forward step in the last week, which has been great.
Good.
Not all week because I was sick for a couple of days, but basically I've had a move on, and I'm feeling quite powerful in terms of like this is going to happen. This is going to work for me. And I've had my first car. I didn't start driving till I was 40, and I got myself a red Capri convertible, and I've had that in my head as this week. It's like I'm getting another one. I'm definitely due for another sports car. It's like, and that's felt like that hasn't felt pie in the sky. It's like, yeah, okay, that's where I'm going with this. Step one, but so I've got the same kind of whip hand feeling that I had when I started losing weight. I was like, this is good. So it's like, oh, this is I'm in a really positive mood at the moment, and it's all kind of some of it to do with this. You and Stuart, between you, are really inspiring.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you,
Lynn. I'm just looking up Capri convertibles.
Yeah,
and,
they're really the ones we have in Australia are much prettier than the British ones. So
we don't have them here in the States. They don't. Does anybody know if Ford Motor Company is still making Capris?
They don't make them anymore. I'd have to get a old second hand.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at these cars and they are not new.
No, mine was red, of course.
Right. Okay, got it. So, would you get another Capri, or would you get? What do you think?
Well, actually, probably not. Probably not, just because you can't get the parts for them anymore. So I'd have to get something. Know.
Okay.
But a convertible.
Could I suggest, maybe looking at, one of the Toyota products like the Lexus?
Do they do convertibles?
They got a really nice one. They just came out with it. It's only 100,000 American. It's pretty great.
Well, I'll see. How pretty, John. Oh, Z3. Oh my God, I love the Z3.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's
all right.
it.
Moving into the 21st century. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so pretty. Yeah.
Good times. Well, look, name it and claim it, right? So they're building these cars for somebody, Lynn. Somebody.
It's mine.
Oh, you. Okay. Well, now we know. That is great. Yeah, let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. This is the Lexus LC convertible. Check this car out. Okay. Oh my willikers, look at this.
Oh, it is pretty. Oh, you're right. It's very, oh my God. Oh, I like that one.
You said you like red, right? Okay.
So even better.
Oh,
yes. Yes.
How have you lived without this?
Oh, that'll do.
Oh my goodness. Oh, look, there she is, right? She got the LC.
Yep. You've got to have the matching high heels.
Look at this guy. Look at this. Look at that stitched leather. Huh?
Very nice.
Oh my goodness. How much? 102.
Who cares?
Yeah. There you go. Now you know. So if I was into convertibles, that's the one I would get. So, all right. Anybody else today? Now that we got a little eye candy on the Lexus.com machine there. Anybody else? Thank you, Lynn. All right, guys. If everybody's good, get into the stream. Reread that chapter if you like on the power of the mastermind, and see how you can apply alongside other allies, right? How you can apply these ideas, because like you said, right, reading the book and having an opinion about it is nothingness, right? Even worse, reading 11 pages and then putting it on the shelf, right? So actually see how you can apply this stuff. And again, I'm preaching to the choir because here we are, right? But I honor you. Thank you for being in this conversation. I'm going to be back here with you tomorrow morning for a fun Friday discussion. And I guess in the meantime, if you need anything, you know how to reach me. If you're seeing this on YouTube, go ahead and click the link and